To start inputting patients into your Advanced MD Office key, up on the toolbar, click on the blue dude. Patient screen pulls up, and if you notice down at the bottom you have some additional tabs, and all these tabs will tie into the patient that we type here on the first screen. Type in the patient's name, last name, comma, first. If you recall, anytime you see an ellipsis button and you type in any information in the field, that you always hit the tab key. When you hit the tab key, AdvancedMD does an automatic search through the database, and if it finds a Carrie Heffernan, it'll have a pop-up window that you can go ahead and double-click on Carrie's name, and then all the other information will pull in here and populate the fields. But because Carrie isn't in the system, when I hit tab, nothing pulls up, so I'm good to go. The chart number here is automatic. As soon as I go ahead and save Carrie Heffernan's information, AdvancedMD will automatically assign a number, and that, if you recall, was set up under the system defaults. Next is the responsible party name. Now, is Carrie the responsible party for paying any charges or outstanding bills on this account, or is it her husband? If it's herself, simply type in the word self and hit the tab key. And later, after you save Carrie Heffernan, AdvancedMD will update this to reflect her name. So when you pull it up, it'll say Carrie Heffernan. This is like a shortcut. Now, if it wasn't self, and let's say it was her husband, type in the husband's name, last name, comma, first, and then hit the tab key. And what will happen is a couple of things. One is if the responsible party was in the system, after I hit tab, it would pull up Doug Heffernan, in which case in the pop-up window you double-click on Doug's name and it will populate at least his name here. And also at the responsible party tab, which is down at the bottom, and we'll discuss that in a second. Also, it'll set the HIPAA relationship to relationship other, or you can click the drop-down arrow and say the relationship of the patient to the responsible party, in this case would be spouse. In the apartment or suite number, remember you want to use the United States Postal Service abbreviation codes. For example, like apartment would be APT and suite would be STE and court CT. Don't use any symbols or pound signs, just simply type in the number and then enter in the address and finally the zip code. And then be sure to hit the tab key as it has an ellipsis button. And if there are a couple of cities assigned to the same zip code, double click on the correct one and it'll automatically fill in the city and the state for you. We don't need to enter in the country if it's in the United States, and then enter any additional information like the home phone number. And you don't have to type in any dashes or dots because the moment you hit the tab key, it'll insert the dashes for you. Fill in any other information you might have, including emails, and change the sex accordingly. Over here on the marital status, we'll want to change that and then choose a date of birth. And when you're choosing the actual date, it's best to usually double click on the date so that little pop-up window closes. And then when you hit the tab key, you'll notice over here it'll actually give you the year and the month, so you don't have to sit there and use your fingers to count them up by simply looking at the date. Be sure to type in the Social Security number, and again, you don't have to add any dashes because when you hit the tab key, it'll add them for you. If the patient has passed away recently, you can check the box and select the date, and then when you save it, it'll automatically remove any appointments that the patient's had in the future so you don't feel uncomfortable if you make that call and realize you forgot to remove them from the schedule. Next, the financial class, which is very important that you tie this to the patient. If the biller is setting this up for the front office who may be entering in patients, you want to make sure that you choose the financial class, if named correctly, the same name as the insurance carrier. So if the patient had Medicare, you double click on Medicare. Also next you'll want to tie the provider, the doctor who actually will be seeing this patient. Click the ellipsis button and double click the doctor's name. Employer, if you have the information available, and the insurance order will be something a little bit later we'll talk about when we click on the insurance tab. You can also have a patient photo here, and we'll cover that on the chart files tab when we get there later, and we can assign photo to the patient. Finally, we do have an audit log button that after you save the patient and you make changes or other users in the system make changes, you can click on this button and it will produce a log of which users made changes to what on Carrie Heffernan. Finally, we want to go ahead and click the Save button to save this first screen or the first tab of many tabs down below. After it's saved, and the way you can tell is basically by looking, your internet has slowed down a bit, or you can always click Save again and it'll prompt you that there are no changes to save.